Well, for more on what is ahead for the cryptocurrency and how you can invest in Bitcoin for the long term, joining me now is Chris Kline. He's a co-founder and COO of Bitcoin IRA, helping people get invested in crypto for retirement. Chris, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to have you, especially here in person. And as we watch the twists and turns of this market, it has steadily pretty much climbed higher. Bitcoin at these levels, how does that look to you?
Oh, it's just a great time to be in cryptocurrency, especially after the last 4 years. I've been at this intersection of retirement and cryptocurrency for almost a decade. And in fact, I didn't have any gray hairs a decade ago, so crypto can do that to you. Just an exciting time. For once, we were kind of battered, beaten, and left behind for a while. And now we're back at center stage, and I think we're going to really just drive forward. And Scaramucci's 200,000, he's not crazy. And there's a lot of other folks calling for numbers of that level. So it's just, the sun is shining on the street corner.
And how does that factor into people's retirement planning? How does your company come in to assist with that?
Well, we make it possible where you can open, fund, and then trade up to 80 different cryptocurrencies. We just launched about 5 or 6 more today. And it makes it a turnkey ability for folks that are looking at crypto. And you think about the potential gains just since we last saw each other in November in a tax-deferred, tax-free setting with Roth and traditional IRAs.
How does the new administration, effective as of about a week and a half ago at this point, Chris, change the game for cryptocurrency?
It hasn't changed the fundamentals of what we're here for. We believe in a change in monetary policy. But for the first time, I don't know if you knew this, but in the first time in 100 years, an executive order came out that was in favor of individual sovereignty in this country. So if you go back to FDR 100 years ago with the Gold Confiscation Act, and then you fast forward to Nixon in the 70s with the taking us off the gold standard, this is the first time where there's been an executive order from the White House that is helping average day Americans have an opportunity to diversify their monetary policy on their personal household balance sheet, which is just what we're going to do as a country with the reserve ahead.
So as we've seen the price of Bitcoin climb with calls to double this year, how have you seen institutional interest change?
Well, now that you have, one's kind of built in for the passive money. So with QQQ being listed in the NASDAQ 100, or sorry, with MicroStrategy being listed in the QQQ, now passive pensions and those types are actually almost active participants in the Bitcoin space, because any investment going to MicroStrategy, Saylor's told us what he's going to do. He's going to buy more Bitcoin. So you're actively involved in the Bitcoin trade. I think what you're going to see with this regulatory clarity and clairvoyance is now the guardrails are there, and you're going to see a lot more institutional money that was a little hesitant 4 years ago start coming into this space.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the mechanism in terms of how institutions would tap into this space?
So traditionally, like obviously IBIT and the ETFs came out, and that was a big push early last year. But now that SAB 121 has been rescinded and replaced with 122, there's actually an ability for them to custody assets without having to put a liability on the other side or an obligation on the other side to hedge it. So it's an exciting time, opening up gateways of potential for institutions. And then obviously I'm at the crossroads of retail investors. I work with average Americans every day that want to protect a part of their retirement account with Bitcoin. And they're just thrilled because now they know that there'll be more people to the party. And let's never forget, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever exist, and 19.5 million of them are already accounted for.
So I do want to ask you, Chris, in terms of what you see for the outlook this year, is it smooth sailing to 200,000, or could we see choppiness? Because many markets guests on our show have said that they do expect choppiness in equities this year.
Yeah, I think you're going to have volatility, not just in equities, but in definitely the crypto market. And that's Bitcoin, and then down into Ethereum and the smaller tokens as well. We're going to do price discovery. We're going to be in new zones, and that's always going to cause volatility. It actually, when Bitcoin gets boring is when it gets the most exciting to me, because there's usually a spring coming. And February, traditionally after a presidential inauguration, is a very exciting time. I would expect to see somewhere in double-digit gains in the next 30 to 45 days.
Chris Kline, co-founder and COO of Bitcoin IRA, joining us in studio. Chris, thank you.
Thanks for having me.